Great, thank you. Good evening. Welcome everyone to the March 30th meeting of the Albany County Law Committee. How is everybody doing?
Well, thanks.
Great.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Kennedy, would you mind taking roll, please?
Madam Chairwoman, Ms. Platsky,
Present.
Cunningham, Bergdorf,
Present.
Feeney,
Here.
Kuhn,
Here.
Mayo,
Here.
Peter,
Here.
Ricard,
Present.
and Whalen.
I'm here. Hello, here.
8 present, Madam Chairwoman.
Great. Thank you, Ms. Kennedy. I'd like to jump to item number 8 by popular request. This is item 8, public hearing on local law A for County of Albany establishing the Sustainable Technology and Green Energy Act, the STAGE Act. Is Mr. Feeney?
Do we have to approve the minutes first?
Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm getting ahead of myself. Thank you. Has anyone reviewed the minutes in the last meeting?
I'll move.
Thank you, Mr. Feeney. Is there a
Second.
second? Thank you, Mr. Ricard. All in favor?
I,
Thank you. Any opposed? No. Thanks. Thanks for the reminder, Mr. Feeney. Okay, back to item 8, if we could please. Is Mr. Joyce in the house?
I'm here, Vicki. It's good to be
Thank
with
you.
everyone tonight. I appreciate you spelling out the acronym for everybody, so I didn't have to. But as you mentioned, this is a public hearing for the STAGE Act. This is a joint effort between the legislature, the county executive's office, the Office of the Majority, and our LDC to set the framework and to set the stage to make Albany County one of, if not the most competitive places in the country for the economic development and everything surrounding sustainable energy and green energy projects, the infrastructure and all the jobs that go along with it. But this is the public hearing. The local law is still being worked on, and we had some great discussion last night in CSGI. We gained a few more co-sponsors, but again, this is going to enable Albany County and all the stakeholders to set the framework and get to work to make Albany County one of, if not the most competitive places and attractive places for sustainable growth and green energy jobs and infrastructure in the country. And I ask that the members of the committee move out the public hearing tonight and we can begin to get to work. And I believe Mr. O'Connor and or Mr. Rogers is on the call if there's any technical or involved questions. Otherwise, they all remain on. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Chair. Are there any questions for Mr. Joyce?
Madam Chair,
Yes, Mr. Bergdorf.
I basically have 4 questions, and I don't know if Lucas or Kevin would be the appropriate people for that. But does the local law impact our local public benefit corporations in the town and city IDAs and LDCs, or is this just apply to the county IDA and LDC? There's some language in 3 sub J that talks about public benefit corporations established by New York state law. And I don't know if that's just limited to the county or everyone within the county. That's question number 1.
Would you like me to respond to that, Madam Chairwoman?
Yes, thank you, Mr. O'Connor.
Thank you, Mr. Bergdorf. It would affect the local economic developers in the county to their benefit. This program would be open for projects that they're working on in their respective municipalities. And, it would be just part and parcel of the kind of cooperative relationship that we've developed through the alliance with the local economic developers. They're the closest people to the companies in their communities, and this is as much a tool for them as it is for everybody else in the county. So I think if there's an impact to them, it's a beneficial one.
Okay, thank you. So it's not that they would undergo any restriction by the passage of this law.
None whatsoever, just the opposite.
Thank you for clarifying that. I've read this law about 4 or 5 times, and one of the things that strikes me is it seems to take Albany County economic development and sharpen the focus just towards green economic development. And I'd like to know, either Kevin or Lucas, how will this impact traditional economic development? Whether it's the creation of a new headquarters for ACO, which we've had in our town, or whether it's the expansion of a construction company or a financial services concern. Are we now, because I see the words priority, everywhere in this statute. Are we going to continue to do the traditional economic development efforts?
Madam Chairwoman, would you like
Yes,
me to?
please go ahead.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes, Mr. Bergdorf, we most certainly will. The point here is that we've kind of established a bit of a beachhead on the sustainable technologies with the likes of the offshore wind, some of the solar projects, some of the transmission line work being done, as well as Plug Power. And this would just be a very powerful marketing tool for us to have, as well as a financial tool. But as you read the description of the projects in here, it's companies that are in this industry, companies that supply or service these industries. But this is in no way exclusive of any other industry. This is just a way of kind of promoting, this kind of first mover benefit that we have in this particular area, which, as we sit here today, between offshore wind and Plug Power alone, we're probably talking close to 10,000 new jobs over the next 10 years. Plug Power alone is responsible for probably about 1,600 new jobs over the next 5 years, and that's direct jobs. And if you include the induced or indirect jobs, that comes out to be about 2,200 jobs. So the multiplier effect of this industry on this county is tremendous, but it's not limited only to these industries. It'll inure to the benefit of specialty steel manufacturers who support the offshore wind companies, professional service companies that support Plug Power or the offshore wind. So I would say, Mr. Bergdorf, that this is just a tool in addition to the other tools that we have in our quiver to promote economic development in the county.
Well, that I'm glad to hear that, because I do not want us to lose any of our economic development focus. If it's a big arrow in your quiver, that's great. But I'd like to make sure that the other arrows continue to be there for other projects which may or may not have green implications, but create jobs. The last question I have is there is some discussion about funding streams and them coming from the county. Have there been any discussions as to where the source of those funding streams might come from and what kind of amounts we might be talking about? I realize there's a lot of federal money around, infrastructure money, or are we talking about, taxpayer money?
Mr. Bergdorf, let me defer this question to County Budget Director Dave Riley. That's really just not my bailiwick. Dave, any clarification here?
Yeah, I can jump in, Kevin. So Mr. Bergdorf, this also came up last night in the conservation meeting. I think Mr. Grimm may have been the one that asked it. At this point, nothing's been determined. We're just starting to stand up the ARPA subcommittees to see where that stands. As you mentioned, infrastructure money is yet to be determined, how much we're going to get through the state and everything. So there's not been a determination yet of size or source.
Okay, thank you very much. And there's just one editorial comment that I would make. And I realize that in this legislation, in the preamble, it's linked to the Climate Leadership and Community Protection Act, which calls for the decarbonization of the New York State economy by 2030. And while I realize that may be aspirational, I somehow suspect that not everybody in Albany County by 2030 is going to have a Tesla and change their heating system over, and that the reality of life is going to be that there is going to have to be some sort of a transition period between decarbonization and our life today. So I would hope that as we go about our economic development efforts, we continue to recognize that there are existing companies and existing industries that provide tens of thousands of jobs that are going to need economic development help in addition to just green jobs. And I leave that as an editorial comment. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Joyce, and Dave and Kevin.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Bergdorf. Is there a motion?
Motion.
Thank you, Mr. Feeney. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Kuhn. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? No. Thank you. Passes unanimously. I would like to jump now to item number 12, authorizing an intermunicipal agreement regarding regional assigned council program collaboration. Mr. DeBose, would you like to speak on this for a moment?
Thank you very much. I would love to. The assigned council program is about to make a few of its moves this year, and one of them would be to cooperate with some of the local counties in an effort to take advantage of the economies of scale of working together on various programs, most specifically MCLEs. We run into a small problem when it comes to a collaboration like this, in the sense that most, or in fact, all intermunicipal agreements have to be cleared by the legislature before they would be allowed to progress. What this memorandum is going to do is it's essentially going to allow for the Albany County Assigned Council Program to work with the local governments while still being bound to the normal procurement requirements that the county would have. So if ACP would like to spend $10,000 on an MCLE, it would still have to go through its normal procurement process. But it wouldn't, simply because of the basis that other municipalities are working with us, be forced to go through the legislature for that $10,000 authorization. And the reason for that primarily is speed. MCLE programs and the ability to get those together come together relatively quickly. We have one coming up in April 7th, so a week from now, that from production to the picking of a date was about 3.5 weeks. Because of the speed with which these are going, had there been resources involved in it having to get towards a municipal or having to get to the legislative stage, our attorneys would not have been able to take advantage of that MCLE. Now, fortunately, in this case, the investigator who came about here is willing to conduct this one for no charge, but I don't think we're going to be that lucky down the line. And so this gives the assigned council program a little flexibility to enter into agreements with its collaborators while still being subject to the normal procurement rules that it would have for the expenditures of money. That was a bit more.
She may have froze.
Have I frozen?
No.
No, you're fine.
Moving. Chairman, the chairwoman is.
Okay.
Can you hear us? Just
Oh,
disappear.
she's coming back here now. What happened?
Okay.
1 second, folks. There she is. Madam Chairwoman, can you hear me?
Sorry, I am back. Yeah, I had internet issue. I had to switch over to my cell phone. I'm very sorry, Mr. DeBose.
That's all right, Madam Chairwoman. Where did I lose you?
I don't think you lost us. We heard you
Oh,
the whole time.
Vicky, you're
Madam
muted.
Chairwoman, you're muted.
Okay, I'm back. Sorry, everybody.
I think we're at the are there any questions point, but I'm not sure.
Thank you.
Yes.
Are there any questions, Mr. DeBose? Hearing no questions, is there a motion?
Motion.
Thank you, Mr. Feeney. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Ricard. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Great. Any opposed? Thank you. Passes unanimously. Thank you, Mr. DeBose, for being here this evening.
Thank you very much, Madam Chairwoman, members of the legislature. Mr. Chair.
Okay, I would like to, item 9, on wireless surcharges, if we could, please. So item 9 is for the public hearing on proposed local law B to exempt the county from wireless communication surcharges.
So I've been doing.
Allison,
I'm
go
sorry.
ahead, please. Thank you.
I apologize. I spoke over you. So we've been working on this for a little while. I started the conversation on this about a year ago with, I spoke a couple times with Craig Apple on it and had some conversations with counsel in the majority's office. And there is currently the surcharges that I believe that we are paying, 42% of it is being absorbed into the state fund and not being utilized for municipal purposes, nor public safety purposes, which, you know, is not unsurprising, I guess. So we're trying to figure out if there is an opt-out option, and then we can either impose our own fee or that would go directly, obviously, towards our E911, or maybe we can take that savings, but we have to find out how much we are actually spending on this right now, which apparently is a little bit of a heavy load because you still have to determine exactly which lines it's being collected on. So I have reached out to the county executive's office. I've asked for a if we could get an understanding of exactly how much we are spending on this. And of course, I want to speak to Craig Apple to find out exactly. I know that the minority had introduced something to try and get more funding for E911, which I totally appreciate. But I would like to table this at the moment, just because there are some unanswered questions, if that is okay for me to do. Just full next month until we get some of these unanswered questions going, because we would want to be able to have all the information we can before the public hearing to get public comment. Is that all right?
Majority council, that's appropriate at this time, right?
That's completely fine.
Okay.
Thank you very much. I'm
Comment,
also having
Madam
conversations
Chair.
with NISAC about it as well.
Comment, Madam Chair?
Excuse me?
May I make a comment?
It's getting tabled.
I realize that. I just want to tell Allison that I'm absolutely in support of this, because one of the things that we've talked about for a year is that only something like 20% of all the excise taxes that people pay on their cell phone bill come back to the county for E911. So to the extent that we can recapture 100% of what we pay and repurpose it towards E911, I think it's a fantastic idea.
Thank
you,
you
Mr.
very
Bergdorf.
much, Mr. Bergdorf.
All right. Jumping once again, we're going to jump to Karen Ziegler's item number 13. Ms. Ziegler.
Thank you so
how
much.
are you?
Thank you so much for your time. Good evening, everyone. Madam Chair and all the legislators, thank you so much. I'm asking to contract with the Office for the Prevention of Domestic Violence for the Enough is Enough grant program. We've had an Enough is Enough grant since 2017. It was formerly under Department of Health. It's moved to the Office of the Prevention of Domestic Violence. This is a 3-year grant, and it is work we have been doing with campuses. We're thrilled. We're having office hours on campus. We're doing prevention education work with students. We're in the classrooms with professors. So we really love this opportunity to reach out to the staff, the faculty, and the students as well. So I'm just hoping that you would like to support this work.
Thank you. Are there any questions from Ms. Ziegler?
I have a question.
Is there? Oh, yes, Mr. Graham.
Yeah, how are they incorporating all the universities in Albany County? Is it equal help for all of them, or how is that going to work?
I believe we have MOUs with all of the universities and colleges. We so far have been able to meet all of the requests. We've had just a couple come in that we're actually at capacity. So it is in my current, I have a budget or grant out to expand our capacity so that we can serve additional colleges with office hours. So right now what we're doing, we're physically on 5 campuses, and then we also offer virtual office hours as well. So even if we're not physically present on campus, students or faculty can log in and access us through our virtual hours. So we are seamless in our provision of services to everyone. We're actually hoping to increase our ability to be on campus by January.
Okay, I just want to make sure it's balanced and everyone gets some equal treatment as far as the help goes.
Oh, absolutely. We want to serve all of the colleges, and that's why we have written that into the grant so that we can continue to expand our services for the colleges.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Sure, thank you. Are there any other questions from Ms. Ziegler? No, is there a motion? Thank you, Mr. Feeney. Is there a second? Thank you, Mr. Bergdorf. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? No, great, passes unanimously. Thank you very much. Let's go to item 14.
Thank you.
Regarding the Office of Indigent Legal Services, the statewide expansion of the Harrell Herring settlement and amending the 2022 Albany County budget.
Good evening, Madam Chairwoman. This is Pat Alderson from the County Exec's Office. I'm here to present this item tonight on behalf of the Public Defender's Office, the Assigned Counsel Program, and the Alternate Public Defender's Office. So this isn't a surprise to anyone. We've seen this item come before the legislature the past 3 years. The county executive has been a staunch advocate for counties to receive funding for indigent defense. In 2014, the state settled the Harrell Herring lawsuit, and beginning in 2017, over a 5-year period, the county was anticipated to receive $26 million from the Office of Indigent and Legal Services across all 3 of those departments to expand its indigent defense capability with additional personnel, attorneys, support staff, expert services, training, mentoring opportunities, and IT support software and other improvements to the ability to provide for comprehensive indigent defense in Albany County. This tonight is for acceptance of the 4th year of the contract. It's a little over $7 million across all 3 of those departments. The funding was originally anticipated and budgeted in the county's 2022 budget. However, there were some last minute changes that were made at the request of the state, and those are reflected here in the budget amendment. I'd like to turn it over to Judge Herrick to kind of talk about the program from his office's perspective as the main beneficiary of this contract.
Great, thank you. Judge Herrick.
Thank you, Madam Chair. as Patrick just indicated, I've been before you the last 3 years in reference to the Harrell Herring payouts. And this is the 4th year the county's supposed to get or will get over $7 million this year. And the public defender is a major recipient of that. In those 3 years, with the legislature's support and the county executives' total support for the expansion and improvement of indigent legal representation, I think that the indigent legal representation in this county has improved incredibly. And we in the public defender's office have initially created and supported with these monies a salary schedule that will hopefully keep our very high and improving quality of attorneys and support staff on a career track rather than losing them to state and private agencies. And in fact, and I think I indicated it to you last month when I spoke before you, we're actually getting an attorney returning from state service to the county to begin in May. This year, what we're doing is expanding and improving the scope and nature of our services. So we're not just talking about courtroom attorneys. We have in this budget 2 criminal justice caseworkers. We initially entitled those staff social workers, but they're much more than that. They're mitigation experts. They help write documents that are submitted to the court, submitted to probation, to help in any dispositions that might occur and improve the quality of the outcome for our clients. They will work with as a liaison between the client and the attorney assigned to the case or attorneys assigned to the case to try to reach the best outcome possible. In addition to those 2 new staff members, they have a peer advocate who will be working with them, who will coordinate and help each of the clients that they serve get to the programs that they've been introduced to, keep them in the programs, remind them of dates, get them services, utilize the network of the high level of quality and number of services in this area to, again, help the client, help their families, and reach a better outcome. We have a discovery technician that will help with the discovery, the receipt of discovery that we're getting under the discovery reform that hopefully will not be rolled back by the state legislature. But the discovery that we are receiving now, part of the ILS funding is for $61,000 just for this year to receive, store, manage, and distribute the discovery that we're getting. And I can recall my first trial when I was on the eve of trial in 1973, when I was handed 2 sheets of paper the night before the trial. That was a discovery I got in that case. And now we get buckets of discovery. The discovery tech will be there to go through the discovery and to help manage it and get it to where it's supposed to be. And that's going to be a very important person on our staff, and we're starting to recruit for that position at this time. We have an additional local court supervisor that we feel we need in order to better improve the quality of representation in the local courts. And we have a fiscal officer data manager who will help gather the data, get it to the data officer for the county, Dr. Wu, get it in the form that it needs to be in to go to ILS, which maintains our funding stream that will go well beyond the Harrell Herring settlement payout. So this is what we're trying to do this year. It will improve not only the representation of our clients, it's improving the reputation of the indigent legal services that Albany County is providing. I'm very happy that the county has passed the budget, and I look forward to hopefully the acceptance of the of the application before you tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Are there any questions? All right, thank you. Mr. Feeney?
Make a motion.
Thank you. Is there a second? Thank you, Mr. Ricard. All in favor?
Aye.
Great. Any opposed? No, thank you. Passes unanimously. Thank you, Judge Herrick, and thank you,
Thank
Mr.
you very
Alderson, for being here this evening, and thank you for your patience.
Thank you.
All right. All right, let's hop back to item number 2. Believe Mr. Efficore is not on, is that correct?
Yes.
Correct, okay.
Tabled as it has no public hearing.
Great, all right, tabled at request of sponsor.
Mhm.
Item 3, local law K is also tabled at request of sponsor. Item 4, for eviction council also is tabled at request of sponsor because there's no public hearing. Item 5 is I don't see Mr. Purley on this evening, is he? No.
He's not here.
Okay.
My understanding is that he tabled it last night at CSGI and was intending to do the same tonight. So because he's not here.
Okay.
He tabled it, the request of sponsor.
Okay, very good. Item 6 is also a public hearing for the opioids statute that is tabled at request of sponsor. Item 7, tabled at request of sponsor. Leaves us 10 and 11, both are tabled pending public hearing. I think we finished.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Feeney. Thank you, Mr. Kuhn. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye.